Welcome to Bay Area Women's Theater Festival Amplify Artist Conversations. I am Erin Merritt. I'm an instigator on the Amplify team. And because theaters are closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our Amplify 24-hour performance event, originally scheduled for Brava Theater April 18th and 19th, which will feature 70 plus performances by over 200 artists, is on hold for the time being. But we refuse to allow the need for social distancing to keep us from amplifying the voices of our amazing women, non-binary, and trans artists and their work. So we are holding a series of conversations with those Amplify artists to make sure that you hear about them and know about their work and are excited to see them in the future or to look for them online now. Today, we're in conversation with playwright, who is also an actor and teacher, Diana Burbano, and actor Livia Gomes Demarchi. And we're going to be talking to them about an event, a show that they did with AlterTheater, which you can find at AlterTheater with an ER, AlterTheater.org, their production of Ghosts of Bogotá, which was going to be part of Amplify. It is one of the few performances that we probably will not get back due to this delay, because it was a full production. So I want to make sure that we get information to you about what that show is about, and maybe plant in your mind that when you open your theater, you might want to program Ghosts of Bogotá for your company. We'll find out a little bit more about these two wonderful people. And I'm going to point you to their websites. You can find Diana at Diana Burbano, BURBANO.com, or her company at breathoffire.org. You can also find, her Patreon is patreon.com/Diana Burbano. Again, BURBANO. Livia Demarchi you can find at Livia Gomes, GOMES, Demarchi, DEMARCHI.com, or her Venmo at Livia_Demarchi. And again, that's DEMARCHI. The reason we're talking about their Patreons and Venmos is that we are paying our artists for these interviews, but we also want to encourage you to take this moment to notice how important entertainment and the arts are for you in quarantine. Or even if you're listening to this later, to remember how important that time was for you to feel connected to the world. The arts are about connecting us to our community and to our world. And we feel that our artists are the people who make that happen, and that they should be well compensated for their work and appreciated for their work. So if you're contribute, please do so. All right, and now without further ado, I want to introduce first Diana Burbano. Hello, Diana.
Welcome. Hi, how are you doing? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Doing all right. And Livia Gomes Demarchi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Erin, for having us here. I'm so excited.
We are so glad to have you on here. And I want to take a minute and actually just really ask you, how are you actually doing here more than a month into quarantine, shelter in place?
Well, interestingly, I am very, 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 very busy. However, my brain is very scattered. So I'm very, very lucky that I have a lot of writing projects coming up, but it is really a wrestle to get my brain to settle down and do the work that it needs to do.
For sure.
Yep. I feel the same way. I'm not super, super busy artistically right now. I'm creating opportunities for myself just to keep sort of my mental health in check. I'm organizing play readings online with friends. I just did play reading all in Portuguese this last Sunday with Brazilian artists, both here and in Brazil. And that was amazing. And I've been working with other Latinx actors to do just Latinx plays. But yeah, scatterbrain during quarantine is a huge thing. And, just dealing with kids and their work and their schoolwork has been a little bit challenging, but I'm okay. We're healthy. We're good. Just riding the wave,
I do know. And we are all three of us parents and artists. So we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes, just how that plays into our work, even in regular times.
Hmm.
But I want to take a second really just to talk briefly about, um, tell me a little bit about Ghosts of Bogotá and what we would have seen.
Well, Ghosts of Bogotá is a very personal play that I wrote for AlterTheater when I was in their writers group. Jeanette Harrison, the artistic director, and an incredible woman, incredible leader, challenged the writers to write things that frightened them.
Mhm,
So this story is what came out, which sounds really, really scary, but except that it's a comedy and quite funny. And it's a very personal story about my family and about some of the traumas that we encountered, especially coming to this country as immigrants.
mhm.
Um, but it's all seen sort of through the lens of being an immigrant and also really feeling like you're an American as well. And so I thought it's a very funny play, and I was really, really lucky because when I got to the production and we got to auditions, we had some terrific actors come out. And I have to tell you something in your audience. Liv, who is going to talk next, actually basically plays me,
Oh
a
my God.
a more glamorous, beautiful, hysterical version of me. But so she was. It was a real pleasure to find her and to have her play the leading role in the play.
Oh my gosh, Diana. Thank you.
I think it's always everybody. I'm sorry, I'm gonna like completely fangirl on you too, Olivia. I've gotten to direct her in briefly in a reading, and Olivia just brings so much class and humor and soul to everything that she does. It's just
Yeah.
a joy to work with Olivia. So I, I think everybody gets thrilled whenever they get her in a show. So we
Wow.
feel like we've won some kind of jackpot that she's joined a show. So
Oh my
thank
gosh, you
you.
guys are gonna make me cry already, and I
Good.
wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much. I mean, Ghosts of Bogota for me was one of the best experiences I've had on stage, period. I mean, when I came into the project, I think the first time I read the play was when I did just a table read with Diana and a few of the other writers at Alter Theater's lab. And at the end of that reading, I was like, wow, these women, because there's this beautiful sister relationship in the play between my character and my sister in the play. And it was so complex and so gut wrenching and funny. And the way they related to each other was so real to me. And the way these two women processed their childhood traumas and the way they carry it on was so powerful and exciting and complex. And I mean, I was just like, I have to be in this play. And when the auditions came around, I was like emailing Jeanette frantically, and she's like, "Don't worry, we have it." I'm like, "Make sure I get seen because I need to be in this play." So when I finally got to be in it, I was just so incredibly honored to say those words, and a little terrified because I knew it was Diana in real life, and I wanted to honor the story the best I could. And yeah, I'm just so honored that I got to do it. Thank you.
Well, and we do know that North Car- Nor- I'm completely tripping over my own mouth. Actors Theater of Charlotte in North Carolina is slated to do a production of Ghosts of Bogota this fall. So we're really hoping that ends up happening.
Yeah.
Um, but I also wanted to talk about there are two directions I want to go on this. When we were programming Amplify, this 24-hour event that we're going to do, um, and Jeanette came to us and said, we really need room to do this 2-hour show in there. And we were like, oh, I don't know if we can fit it in there. Let's see if we can jiggle things around. And she said, it needs to be in there. It needs to be in there. It needs to be in there. And I know you two weren't part of that conversation, I don't think, but can you talk to me a little bit about why it was important to you to do that show as part of a women's theater event, in addition to in your regular run?
Just because I will say that as a female playwright, what I do and what my passion is writing fantastic roles for women, especially in my case, Latinx women that we don't see. My women are very, I think they're different from what you usually see. They're always the leads in the play. The men are always the secondary characters. And I feel it's really important to have that voice heard by people. And I was so excited to be part of a women's festival because, it's part of the intersectionality of being a feminist and feeling a part of an entire group. I mean, because we do tend to break ourselves up a little bit, but we are a part of a whole. And I know that we were all really excited to be a part of the festival, and just amplify other women as well and be able to support the voices.
When I think, for us creating it, it's so important to us to bring a bunch of women, and I should say women plus. It's women, non-binary, and trans artists into a room together,
Mm-hmm.
and have them bouncing ideas off each other and have them knowing each other and having that that solidarity of oh, there are so many of us, we can support each other and we can find collaborators here, but
Yes.
also to show the incredible breadth and variety of what people are doing. That this is not chick lit. This is not
Yeah.
chick flicks. This is the every show and every incarnation of performance is being done by women. So if you want to hire somebody to do anything in any type of performance, you can always hire a woman or non-binary or a trans person to do that. You don't have to hire a man, although of course we also honor the men that do the work.
And we also were very proud. I just wanted to mention that Ghosts of Bogotá led AlterTheater to achieve 50-50 gender parity.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So it felt very important in that way as well.
Yeah, so that's a great transition to, part of our putting on Amplify was that there's been the slogan for a good long time, 50-50 by 2020, meaning we need to have gender parity. And we feel a little bit like, hey, man, this is the year a pandemic has to come along. Wow, the universe really doesn't want women to get their voice, which of course is ridiculous. It's completely by chance, but and we're also not going to let it shut us up at all. But we are aware of those losses, and I know before we started recording, we were talking about this also being a real lost season of Latinx theater. That there was a tremendous groundswell of Latinx focused theater being produced. I was working. I work at the Magic, so our production of Don't Eat the Mangoes was interrupted, and
yes, there's a list actually that was put out by Professor Brian Herrera that was our lost season of Latinx plays, which was a beautiful thing for him to do because he reached out to those of us who have had lost productions because and put all our work up. I was so lucky that Ghosts not only went up but had its run completed. This was a year where, for the first time in my life, I had 3 world premieres opening. I had a play called Policarpa that was opening at Franklin and Marshall College in Pennsylvania. And then I had my play Fabulous Monsters that was due to open at Playwrights Arena in Los Angeles. Both of those pieces have been, Policarpa's postponed and Fabulous Monsters is canceled. But I mean, it's been years that I've been laying the groundwork, as do we all, right? And to have 3 and have 2 of them snatched out from under me, that's hard. That's hard. But I was so happy to have Ghosts. I mean,
it's so hard with that loss of of income, but also that loss of momentum. Like I think people outside of theater don't necessarily know that the way arts work, it's all about who you know and who you talk to and what's been seen and whether you're kind of on people's minds at that time, which is part of what we're doing this
right.
interview
And
series.
It takes years to lay enough of the groundwork to get yourself in there. Yep.
Right. And that interruption of momentum is really it's a killer. So I'm going to take one moment to just name check Brian Herrera again. So this is Brian Herrera. He's a Princeton professor, also works with the Soul Project, SOL Project, which promotes Latinx theater. And you can do a Google search. It's the actual, I have the link, but it's too long and confusing to link here. So just look up Brian Herrera, Princeton, Lost Season Latinx Theater, and you will find the list. And so again, what I want to say, if you are working in theater right now and you have any producing power, please don't let this be a loss permanently of these shows. Let's pick
Right.
those up when we can meet again,
Yes.
and let's pick
Yes,
up
that's
women's
what I
theater
was
again when we
thinking
can
too,
meet.
because
And I want to take this opportunity to go ahead.
oh, I was just
Go
gonna
ahead,
say,
Livia.
as an audience member, um, looking at all the shows that were lost, that were Latinx in the Bay Area, hit me very hard because I wanted to go see them and support them and put my money behind them. And now, it doesn't seem like they're coming back. I'm not sure if any of them are at this point. And I understand that a lot goes behind all of those things, but I really want to encourage more companies to look at Latinx stories from now on. I feel like this year was exceptional in that way, but normally it's not that way. So I think
Mhm.
just to put that button in there to say, look at our stories. We're here. We're what, the majority of the state now, Latinx
Hmm.
people. So I think it's important, and we crave those stories and we want to support them. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, it's not just the Latinx
No,
artists who
exactly. Yeah,
all of us,
indigenous stories.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so obviously the zeitgeist was such that the producers were feeling it was time to do these stories.
mhm,
So it's still going to be time to do these stories
right.
when we emerge from this. So let's not lose those. Um, Lost momentum, it is really on the forefront of my mind also in terms of being an artist who is also a parent. So I'd love to
Mhm.
shift to that for a moment and talk about um, maybe if each of us could tell a little bit about how you became an artist and how you found your voice as an artist, how you found your place, but also then what happened when kids got added to that mix.
Mm.
Hmm. Well, so
Yeah.
I've been performing since I was very young, and I got my equity card pretty much out of conservatory. I think I was 20. So I've been an equity actor for a very, very long time. I hit a certain age, and the role's already pretty meager and already not that great because I'm very Latina presenting, and I haven't changed my name, and I always, I never tried to pass or hide. So things weren't there for me to do. So I started writing. I actually wrote with my partner a play called Silueta about the artist Ana Mendieta and her husband Carl Andre. Ana was pushed out of a 36-story window and murdered by her husband. And it was a story that nobody had been telling, and I thought I want to write something for me and for my partner that we could maybe take around, and I don't know. I just thought I have to do something because I had just had I had a baby, and I wasn't getting hired, and I was just feeling it was very difficult. But so my partner and I started writing with our other co-deviser, Tom Shelton and Chris Shelton, and I loved it. I mean, I
Mhm.
loved it. It was not only was it fun to collaborate with these guys, but I realized how much fun it is to put the words on paper. And to be
Mhm.
honest, I enjoyed it more when other people did it. I mean, I didn't need to perform the piece, even though I wrote it for myself. I get much more of a charge writing it for other people and watching them. And one of the big moments for me is every single time. I've had a lot of readings. That's
Mhm.
why it's sort of interesting that I was finally getting productions because I'm one of those people. I've had readings all over the country. I've been to Independence, Kansas. I've been to Omaha, New York. I mean, all over the place. A lot of staged readings, and inevitably, I get female, Latinx, and non-binary people saying to me, "Thank you. Nobody's ever written anything like this for me before."
Mhm.
I've never had a part like this. You wrote something for an indigenous Latinx. Wow. And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's important. And
Yes.
Great.
I'm not
Comfort
trying to make
suffering
myself
every
feel
time, isn't
grandiose.
it?
Yeah, it's really, it just really struck me that you're right. It's not just me who didn't have enough roles to play. We
Mhm.
we have to write them, we have to create them, and we have to push them. That's why as a teacher, I'm always really, really I'm very pushy with my students, and I tell them no imposter syndrome, none. Your stories matter, they're important, they deserve to be out there, and other people need to hear them. So none of that imposter syndrome. because that's not what we need. We need to really boost each other and boost our own worth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how real is that imposter syndrome? I mean, um, for me, I became a mom very young, and I moved to the United States when I was 18 from Brazil. So I think my acting career didn't really start happening until after I had kids. So I don't really remember what it was like to be an actor without them. I mean, I was at the time
Mm.
in my early 20s, only a couple of years after I was here, trying to figure out where I fit in American or United Statesian theater, right? Because we're all Americans all over America, South
Right.
America, Central America. And I couldn't really find a place for me. I had a much thicker accent at the time. It's still a little bit there, but not as much. So that was, immediately something that people told me I needed to work on if I wanted to work here. I am more ethnically ambiguous, a lighter skinned Latina. So, people saw, oh, you could fit in here or you could fit in there, but your accent is no good. And so there were so many messages for me in the beginning that this was not going to be something that I could do as a career, really, because of that I was like, oh no, I came from Brazil. I dragged my ass over here. This is going to happen. And so then having kids sort of made it even more, in a way, made me want to fight for it more, because I wanted them to see that I was not going to give up on that. And in a lot of ways, yeah, it was really hard when I had my son. My son is 12 now, but back then, Bay Area theater, nobody had kids that were in positions of power that could allow for children to really be inside a rehearsal room. And it was hard. It was really hard. I remember I booked like a touring kids show with a company, and I was still breastfeeding my son, and it was this whole thing about it, and I had to take all my breaks, and my mother-in-law at the time was really sweet and was able to drive my son to rehearsal so I could breastfeed him in the car, because I couldn't really breastfeed him inside the rehearsal space. It was really weird, and it was a bunch of dudes running the show, and um,
Mm.
they also like made a comment about how my boobs were distracting to the children because I was
Oh
a
my
breastfeeding mother.
God.
They're like, don't you have a sports bra or something? And I'm like, wow, okay. So but I was so young, and I didn't know, like I just felt very alone in that world as a parent
Mhm.
at that time. And then of course we have a Bay Area baby boom now. A lot of
Yeah.
people have kids, and it's beautiful to see that younger generations of parents are having much more space in those rooms. But I certainly didn't feel like that when I first was starting. But
I so wish that I had known you then, because I was running, because my kids are 2 years older than yours, son, I think.
oh yeah.
And I was running a company, and
Mhm.
it was an all female company. So I was like, sorry guys, this is going to be a topless meeting today. Like, but even with my company members, that was pretty. They none of the or one of them had kids,
Yeah.
but everyone else was a little weirded out, too. Which I was like, yeah, I get it, but this is what I have to work with, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think, and there were other people like Carrie Perloff has a kid. There was her kid was a kid when during that time, but it was invisible to those of us. So we all
Right.
felt alone in our little silos.
Right, and that's so sad because I feel like if I had known you then, or other people who I knew had kids at that time, we could have somehow empowered each other. It's just
Right.
I was new to the area. I was new to theater here. Nobody really knew who I was, and I was trying to, wrestle with my own demons of belonging and
Yeah.
theater
Yes.
place, and then being a parent and being a new immigrant and all those things. I mean, there's so many things that went into that process that honestly, I don't know. Some of it I even blocked out because I'm like, I don't want to revisit that. And I feel like, I found myself a lot more
Mhm.
now. My kids, of course, are 12 and 9 now, and they're amazing. And they don't know their mother without being an actor as well. They know me as an actor. They come to my shows when they can. They couldn't come to Ghosts of Bogotá, unfortunately. It was a little too heavy for them, but I so yeah, and I think geographically speaking for me now, it's hard because I would like to have more opportunities. I would like to work. I'd like to be in the North Carolina productions of Ghosts of Bogotá because I want to follow that play everywhere I go. That kind of thing
Mhm.
prevents me a little bit because I have two kids and I have to think about being physically present where they are, and
Yes,
which
but you also have an advocate in the playwright who also has a kid who, you know what I mean? I mean, it's now, we advocate for each other, I think. So,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, this could be a whole other, maybe we revisit this as a, work group of what can theaters do, what are best practices for theaters to involve parents, not just moms, but of course it's usually the burdens on the mom,
Mhm.
to make it more possible to have, work hours that work around having kids, having to pick up kids, having to get kids to bed,
Well, you can
work hours.
always tell the theater companies of where the directors, artistic directors have had children because they're
Yeah.
far more sympathetic to what it's like, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And I have
Well,
to say, I mean, now it's a completely new world. I mean, I don't even feel weird about saying, "Oh, I have two kids." They might have to come to rehearsal. People are like, "Oh my God, don't worry about it."
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a completely different environment now, and I'm so happy. And yeah, so
yeah, most companies have tried it now and gone, "Oh, it's not as weird as we thought it was gonna be."
Right.
exactly, yeah,
So they're like, "Okay, well, yeah, this makes sense." And it's yeah. And I think most people are also realizing that it's parents are not distracted actors or distracted playwrights, that they're people who bring an extra bit of world experience to the story.
Mhm.
exactly.
Yes.
So that yeah. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox for a minute.
No, it's a great soapbox. I was just as we were talking, I'm running through all the terrific directors and writers and actors and people women specifically I know who have children who manage to do some amazing work, and
Yeah.
it's never stopped them, you know?
I know my directing's much more complete now because I'm thinking of I have so many more frames of reference
Mhm.
that I didn't have before. So not a reason by itself to have kids, but definitely a reason if you have that opportunity to work with people with kids, they bring something else, another dimension. So, all right. So, were there moments for either of you that you felt like you hit a stumbling block and wanted to give up on your artistry, or greatest impact moments where something hit you so hard you knew you had to keep going? Any anecdotes you want to share?
Hmm.
Well, I'll just do a small one. I had my play Policarpa was presented at the Drama League a few years back now, and my director, Melinda Hall, assembled an all Colombian cast for me, something that I'd never had. Um, just because it's more common in New York to have Colombian actors, there's more of them there, and she thought it would serve the play. So we got in a room and one of the actresses she just burst out crying. She says, "I've never been in a room with so many Latinx women, much less Colombian women. This is amazing to me. I feel I'm not like the only one." And I thought, yeah,
Mhm.
that's it. I'm not the only one. It's a huge feeling.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, for me, I don't think I'm not even gonna say it out loud because as soon as you say it, then it happens, right? But I haven't really come to a point where I'm like, I'm gonna quit
Hmm.
yet, because I feel like the beginning of my career was so hard and almost impossible, and somehow I got
Well,
through it and
right, that
got
was.
better, and now I'm working a lot more than I was, and with Latinx stories. Even though I'm Brazilian, I'm that odd Latina who speaks Portuguese. But I think it's so wonderful for me when I am in a room with a bunch of Latinx women. It is so empowering, and Latinx, artists in general, I think it brings me a sense of belonging that is so wonderful and joyous. And yeah, so for me, I think that's really powerful. And also performing for Latinx audiences is really
Mhm.
powerful. I remember when we had the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce come to Ghosts of Bogotá, it was such a beautiful performance. They got obviously all the Spanish and all the English, but they got the nuance, right?
Mhm.
Of this culturally specific. And it was Colombia. And it's funny because like Colombia, Brazil, like we share borders, we're very different countries, but like there's some similarities there as well. That I was like, oh my gosh, the way she talks about Bogota and the way we romanticize when we live outside of where we grew up,
Mhm.
is so funny because I do the same thing. When I go home, I like romanticize about Sao Paulo and,
Mhm.
and then my parents are like, stop it, it's not like that. Stop romanticizing. Stop it, And I'm like, "Oh my god, we do that when we separate ourselves from that culture, right?" So, I think it's so beautiful to be able to find that nuance, that is such a specific thing to, immigrant experiences.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, so we're living in this weird time, and you're waiting, Diana, to find out whether the North Carolina production of Ghosts of Bogotá will be able to open. Livia, all your shows that you had booked have been canceled.
Mhm.
What are you doing in this time? Are you feeling moved to create? Are you feeling moved to just not have the pressure to create, and just chill and hang out with family? What is this moment doing for you?
Well, this is I am a very lucky person. I feel huge amounts of privilege because I've had some wonderful things come my way. Um, as a matter of fact, Livia knows because she was in a reading. There's some good news about Sapiens that I can't say out loud, I guess, yet because I don't know when this is going
Oh.
to air. But there's some pretty
Ah!
good news about that. um,
Okay.
so it's another play that I wrote that Livia has a great part in, and she's one of my favorite actors. Like I have her voice in my head when I write certain things. So
Oh.
Oh my
um,
god.
yeah, so I have to. I'm working on a new draft of that, and then Center Theater Group has got us writing a few things. We're doing some new like Insta plays. We'll see how that
Mhm.
works. Yeah, there's a lot of writing going on. I mean, to
Well,
be
and
honest, right now it's for
you
the
did the
radio
very
and
first.
things like that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I spoke over you there for a minute. Can you repeat what you just said? Because I spoke over you.
Oh, no. I was just saying, I have there's a lot of writing going on. It's sort of radio plays is kind of the
Mhm.
thing that people are asking for a little to sort of do right now. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and like I say, I have to sort of wind myself up more than I usually do and make myself sit down and write. But
Right.
I feel I'm in a good place to keep going and to push other people to go because that's what I love to do is to encourage people to do the writing themselves. And I have all my playwriting classes and I'm pushing them. I'm pushing them really hard. Like sit down and write and bring me a scene, bring me two scenes next week. I don't usually I'm much more gentle on them, but now I'm like no, let's keep going. Let's work.
And those classes are, the they're available to others to sign up for at some point, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I do teach for South Coast Repertory, but my I have a smaller. We have a grant to teach for community at the Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble. It's a sign up class because I can't take everybody, but we can take a good amount of people to come, and we offer our classes to the community for free thanks to the grant. And you can find more information on the Breath of Fire website about that.
Right, and again, that's breathoffire.org.
Mhm.
And you said you had the very first Zoom reading?
I did actually, yes, with the Dramatists Guild. We did the one of the. I think it was the first one because I did it as soon as we got sort of self quarantined on the 10th. Our theater shut down, I think, on the 12th, and then I had my reading the week afterwards.
Mm.
And because I really wanted to, because I sort of long story, but I knew this was going to happen. I was in Seattle in January working on another project, and I saw all the signs. But I thought, let's get going because it's people like me, like my little theater, scrappy little theater company. We know how to do things on the cheap and on the fly, but to make
Yeah.
them good. So let's put our stuff out there and see what we can do to keep people engaged and entertained, and to keep us working, and getting grants and
Yeah.
being able to survive as a theater company, which is so important.
And is that something that anybody can find? Is that available online still?
No, that was a Zoom, and I didn't record that one. But there's so many wonderful ones going on. Breath of Fire is
Yeah.
actually sponsoring a bunch more. So
Fantastic.
yeah, all that is on our website. So if you join our mailing list, and you'll find out all about it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
What about you,
Sapiens.
Olivia?
Oh my God, I love that play. Diana, that play is beautiful. I can't not wait to hear the good news about that because I think it's just another one of very complex female Latinas written by Diana that she does so well and so beautifully.
Yeah, I'm
And
going to read the description of it from New Play Exchange.
yeah,
Uh,
it's
Elsa, a doctor of primatology, is on the autism spectrum and has successfully hidden this fact from the world. She is currently working with an orangutan named Wookie, who Elsa hopes to prove is capable of speaking a human language. Elsa's 12-year-old nephew, AJ, is also on the autism spectrum. He is locked in, completely nonverbal. However, thanks to AJ's so called disability, he and Wookie joyously discover that they can communicate with each other. This explodes Elsa's carefully constructed science based worldview and forces her to drop the mask of normality she has worn her whole life. I want to see that play.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
well,
good.
I will tease that it will be in the Bay Area, so I'll say that.
Oh,
All
excuse
right.
me. I choked in my own excitement here. Sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to hear that Diana is being so productive. I'm trying. I
Mhm.
go, I was working as I was saying before a little bit. Right now I'm not. So I'm trying to keep my artist self alive and there's this fabulous group that we created called Latino Mafia, and
Mhm.
it's a few of us from Ghosts of Bogotá, Leticia Duarte, Tony Ortega. We are part of this group on Facebook, and we have been scheduling weekly readings of Latinx works, and we all get a little bit of a chance to read, and that has been really saving me. And
Mm.
then, as I said before, we did a reading of a Brazilian classic with Brazilian artists both here in the US. And I think the great thing about the internet, it's such a democratic medium because never did I think, oh, I'm going to get all these people together that are, all over the world, whatever. And here we are, and we're able to do that, even though it's absolutely not the same. It's just not, you miss the connection, the presence of the actor, but it's something, right, for us to be hopeful for and to explore. Like there's no reason why we as actors or performers we shouldn't try to come up with ways to make it work, to I don't know, stage it in a way that it reads, effectively for an audience. And I did participate, Playground SF, which is I'm a company member for them. We did our Monday night playground online, and it was actually really great. And I got to see a bunch of really talented local artists read brand new plays in that format, and it was so cleverly done. Again, it's not the same. There's no way it could ever be the same, but it was really hopeful, and it was like, wow, there are techniques we can use or incorporate to make it work, at least for now while we're
Right, the
waiting.
same skills that we're using to be nimble and scrappy and make theater out of nothing, we're adding to those skill sets right now, and we don't want that to
Exactly.
replace what we're doing, but there are these extra, yeah, like you said, getting to work with artists actually in Brazil, um, getting to work, maybe building your skills writing radio plays in a way that you haven't really been pushed to write in the past, builds a new skill. And I think these are all going to make the writing and the performance that we do when we come back into the real life space, the real time meet space. That's going to make our productions more complex at that point. I
Mhm.
want to mention really because you mentioned them, playground-sf.org, which is a
Mhm.
playwright incubator here in San Francisco that everyone should know about. Again,
Oh yes,
playground-sf.org.
yes.
Yes.
Follow that one especially. I think. Hint,
Yes.
hint, hint.
Hint.
Yeah. Hint, hint, for sure. They're amazing. I mean, and they've been supporting us in beautiful ways. Seriously, I
Yeah,
feel
they're great.
um very supported by that company right now and seen by them. And we have like little weekly, happy hour Zoom meetings, whatever. Yeah, they're a wonderful company. So,
Right. And I feel like we are actually, even though you're not coming out and saying something, I feel like we are breaking news here. So I don't know when this is going to go live, this interview, but I think I will just say we won't take this live until you tell us we can. How's that? And then you can talk about anything you want, or people can make the inferences that you're making because I've made them.
Well, I sure. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure Jim's going to be announcing pretty soon. So I don't know, but Playground SF is going to be doing Sapiens this summer. So
oh my
yeah,
gosh!
yeah, I'm very very excited about that. I'm very excited. Yeah, I do feel very supported. He's been great. I work with him both in Jim Kleinman is the artistic director and yeah. So I'm very excited to be doing that. So we'll see how that goes.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. And this is all like we can't hold anybody to anything because who knows what is going to happen. But that's the plan right now.
That is the plan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. So there you go. What can we talk about after that?
Yes. Gonna clap over here. I don't know if you can hear the
So
clapping.
all that to say, theaters are going through a very, very hard time right now. You guys know that. I'm talking to our audience right now. We're not the only industry. The entire entertainment and hospitality and travel industries, which are all kind of intermingled, are really having a hell of a time. And we know that audiences at home wish that that weren't the case, and we know that audiences at home want to be at their theaters and their restaurants and their hotels and their on their vacations. So we're here for you online until we can be in real space together. And we hope that those of you who cannot afford to get out and do other things or cannot afford to pay to do various things are enjoying the entertainment that is available for free, including this podcast series. But we also hope that those of you who are in the very fortunate position of having steady work even through this time, and if you have a little bit of extra money, that you can throw it the way of a theater company or someone else who could really just use the help to get through this time. We are Bay Area Women's Theater Festival, and you can find us everywhere under that name, Bay Area Women's Theater with an R-E, Theatre Festival. And we're also on Facebook at Facebook.com/BAWTF because WTF, we have to have a women's theater festival. And you can also, so you can always throw us money. We love that. And again, if you'd like to support Livia and or Diana directly, you can reach them at Livia on Venmo at Livia, Livia _ Demarchi, DAMARCHI, or Diana Burbano on patreon.com, Diana Burbano. And of course, all of the other companies that we mentioned here, if you feel moved to support Playground at playground-sf.org, or AlterTheater, which is theater.org. And I can't remember who else we mentioned here, but we would love your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the flesh when that is possible. Livia, Diana, thank you so much for joining us today. It was just such a joy to talk to you.
Thank you, Erin. That
so
was a
much,
real
Erin.
pleasure. Thank you so much. That was
Same.
lovely.
And I want to thank you so much for this festival. And I cannot wait to see everybody's work when we can actually see them. I saw the lineup of work, and I have to say, beautifully diverse voices of all female presenting, trans, non binary artists. I'm very, very, very excited to see it when we can. Thank you again.
So am I. I'm looking forward to it. All right. Thank you so much.